Hi, I'm Ishan.
I'm Lena.
And we're part of Team USA. And today we're going to talk to you about how to make linear slides.
So linear slides can be used for lifting and different types of linear motion. And today we're going to show you how to build this out of the parts that are included in the REV system kit.
And so, as you can see, this linear slide, when plugged into, when the motor is plugged in, it can lift and it can also lower. Now we're going to talk to you about some of the parts that you'll need to make the linear slides. We have these two 420mm long REV extrusions, and you can use any length of extrusion that you would like. We have the pulley kit that comes with the First Global kit, along with the linear motion kit that comes with the First Global kit.
You're also going to need surgical tubing, string, 2mm Allen wrenches, and hex nut drivers. And it's important when you're using these linear motion kits that you don't mix up the parts. These are single side slides, which will go on the outsides of your REV rails. Double-sided slides, which will go in between your REV rails. There's two different kinds of nuts, nylock and regular nuts. We also have low-profile screws and hex head screws.
In the pulley kits, you'll need the small pulley bearings that come with the REV kit, along with all the parts in the pulley kit, which is the end caps and the pulley holders, along with 16mm M3 screws and 4 M3 lock nuts. We're going to talk to you about how to use the double-sided slides, and so what we're going to do is we're going to put double-sided slides on the two pieces of REV rail and on opposite ends, and then we're going to put the slides together like this.
And to assemble your double-sided slide, you're going to need first this black piece, and you're also going to need normal hex nuts, not the locking hex nuts, and these low-profile screws. So you'll see on this piece there are two different sides, and on one side the holes are hexagonal, and on the other side the holes are circular. And so on the circular side you want to put in your low-profile screw, and on the other side you want to put in your nut. And you want to tighten them loosely, keeping in mind that you may have to tighten or loosen these in order to get this piece to slide onto the REV rail. And you will also want to repeat that for the other side. So another screw on the circular side and another nut on the hexagonal side. Then you're going to take your REV rail and you're going to slide on this piece. See it? Sometimes you might get stuck, and that's because your screw is either too loose or too tight. So you have to try to either tighten or loosen so that your piece will slide onto the REV rail. Then you want to tighten it just until you feel a little bit of resistance. Don't tighten it too much, or this black piece will bend and you will have a lot of friction on your slides.
Alright, and now we're going to repeat that process for the other bearing on this side. Now that these two bearings are in, what you can do is you can have them lined up so that one of the bearings is at one end and one of the bearings is at the other end. And now you have to just align it up so that the bearings go into the other piece of REV rail. And now you have some sliding slides. If you don't tighten them enough, these bearings will often slide between the pieces. But if you over-tighten them, you'll get a lot of friction between the pieces. So you need to make sure that you tighten them enough so that you feel a little bit of resistance, but you don't over-tighten them in order to bend the bearings. Now that we have the slides moving, one of the problems that you might have is that they like to wobble side to side a little bit, if you can see that. And so we're going to add these one-sided slides to the REV rail in order to help support the extrusion from wiggling side to side. In order to do that, I'm just going to quickly put these on, and then we're going to walk you through how to actually make these.
So So there are two sides to this piece. There's a side that's has ridges, and there's a side that's flat. So you want to take your 6mm hex heads, and you want to put the head on the side that has a ridge. So you put these in, and this is what is going to slide into the REV rails. Then on the other side, you want to take these nylock nuts and attach the screws in place. So you'll see on this set of slides that we've already started to assemble that there's one side that is attached to the bearing in the middle, and then there's one side that moves independently. So you'll want to take these. The screws are going to go on the side that doesn't move relative to the double slide, and you will slide this onto your REV rails. You might have to loosen or tighten based on how well it slides on. And then you'll want to tighten these, but not too much, and you will have to play around with the tightness to make sure that they're tight enough to stay onto the rail, but not too tight as to produce lots of friction. And you'll want to do that again with the other piece. So find the side with ridges, put in your screws, attach your nuts, this time go to the other side of your linear slides. You'll see this time this is the rail that's moving independently. So you'll want to put in your slide like this, and the other side came out because I'm uncomfortable. So you might have noticed that very frequently these slides will come apart, and so in order to stop that from happening, we're going to use these 8mm hex head screws to prevent the rails from sliding apart. So you want to take the rail that is moving, and you want to put in your screw, your nut, have that all the way at the end of the rail, and tighten it onto your rail. And then you'll also want to adjust the position of your single side slide to match, so that the rails match. And then you're going to need to repeat that on the other end. So this is the slide that moves here. And then just adjust the position of the single side slide. And you see that these rails now can't come apart like they would otherwise.
If you have nicks inside of your REV rail on the sides, you might have a little bit more friction, and you can hear there's like a grinding noise. So if that's the case, you may have to replace your extrusion or loosen and tighten these screws. But ideally it should look something like this, which is a very, very smooth motion, and it's a very strong linear slide that doesn't wiggle as much. Now we're going to show you how to make the linear slides move using a motor. So if you use the Kevlar string that's included in the kit, and you attach the string to a motor, and as you pull the string, the slides will extend. And so we're going to show you how to string it on the bigger set of slides.
So the first step of this is attaching your end cap. So you'll want to take the slide that's stationary, so this one, and you'll want to attach your end cap onto that, and using a screw it in. So you'll have to thread the piece of REV. So just
it may take a little bit of extra force to tighten the screw into the center hole of the REV extrusion.
Yeah, but once you've done that, it should screw in and out easily.
Oh, you need a 16mm screw in order to do this.
Yes. Okay, next you're going to take another 16mm screw and put it inside this end cap. And this is going to be used to attach the pulley. So you want to take your pulley and your piece of Kevlar string, run the string around the pulley, and then stick the pulley into
From the top.
The pulley holder. And then you want to stick it onto your screw.
And with this nut, you need to be careful not to over tighten it again, because if you over tighten it, there's going to be additional friction on the pulley. Alright.
And then on the other end of your slides, you're going to put an 8mm screw. This is way too tight.
That's probably good. Oh, if you don't tighten it enough, it will fall out like that. So make sure that you tighten it enough, but don't over tighten it.
I'm just gonna live with friction.
Yeah.
And here we have a bowline knot that you can look up how to make. And you'll want to put this around the screw down here.
And hold this tight while tightening the nut. And the rope should not, or the Kevlar should not come out. Now when you pull on the string, go ahead. The slide goes up.
Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is prepare this bracket. This bracket will help us mount the motor. You can see I've used already 3 screws and nuts to just, these will allow us to slide the bracket onto the REV beam.
Alright, so now we're going to slide the bracket so that the flat side is on the opposite side of the string. So it's going to slide in like this, and so that will allow us to mount the motor. And so I'm just going to turn it up right here. Alright, now that it's tightened, what we're going to do is we're going to take our motor and we're going to attach it to one of these screws, one of these holes. It doesn't really matter which one. I'm going to attach it sideways, that way it doesn't hit the ground. And just use 8mm hex head screws to attach the motor. And first loosely screw in all of the screws, that way the motor gets aligned, and then tighten up. And once you got those tightened up, tighten them all the way. You want to make sure that this mounting is tight, because otherwise the motor might fall out, and then everything will fall apart. Okay, now that we have that, we're going to mount something that we can pull the string with. So we're going to start out with using a hex shaft, and we added an axle collar to the hex shaft. And in order to tighten these axle collars, you'll need the 1mm hex Allen wrench. And then we're going to put this shaft through the motor on the other side, and that'll prevent the shaft from sliding around. And then on this side, we're going to use a high-strength hub And the reason why we're using a high strength hub is because it will help reinforce our pulley, which is this piece. And you can use any size pulley. We picked this size because we wanted something that would go faster. And so you can see that the pulley might hit the rev rail. You want to adjust it so that it doesn't hit the rev rail. And you can use spacers to make sure that it doesn't hit the rev rail. So now that the pulley is on there, what we're going to do is we're going to attach this string. I'll talk to you a little bit about how to string this to the motor. So we've got our pulley on here, and what we've done is we've given ourselves a little bit of slack, and we're going to cut the string with a little bit of slack. And you'll see that the string likes to split up and fray. And in order to fix that, what you can do is you can use a lighter, and if you light the end, it'll actually melt the string and fuse it together, and just let it cool down before you use it. So now I'm going to tie this to the pulley, and I took it off because it's a little bit easier to tie when it's off the motor. So first you're going to try to get the string through, and you might have to use an Allen wrench to push it through, but once it comes out, it's nice. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have this part of the string go down the pulley, and then we're going to wrap the end of the string around once more and put it into the next hole. So, like this, just push it through. That way we create some friction and prevent this piece of string from coming off of the pulley. And now we can tie it off using a square knot to this piece. And just pull, and it should stay on the center of the pulley. The reason why we use such a big pulley is because it would take less wraps of the pulley to lift this entire system up, which means that the string wouldn't overlap on itself and have a potential to fall off of this pulley. So now I'm going to put the pulley back onto the hex shaft. So it's on there, and now when the motor rotates, it goes up, and when the motor stops rotating, it'll come down due to gravity. Alright, go ahead. Now that you've made this linear slide, you could use it for something. You could attach like a claw to lift and lower game elements.
You could use it to lift the fuel cubes or power line cubes.
Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at fgcteamusa2018@gmail.com or contact us on Facebook or Twitter.
Thank you.